Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming and joining us for the Careers in Meteorology panel. We're so excited to have our panelists here with us today. We're excited to have you all with us. So our goal for this panel is just to kind of go through different fields within meteorology, try and find, if you guys maybe don't know of any, or maybe you know some of these fields go through. So kind of the structure of this is we'll have our panelists introduce. We've got some questions lined up, and then after that, we'll go through and we'll open the floor for questions from you all. So, without further ado, if you cast your mind, the introductions.
Hi. I don't talk on my phone usually. I'm Sean Freeman. I'm assistant professor here at UAH in the Department of Atmospheric and Aeroscience.
I'm Anello. I'm the morning meteorologist at WAAY-31 News.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina Amiot, and I'm a meteorologist at National Weather Service here in Huntsville. Hi, my name is Amiot. I'm a senior atmospheric science and working at CFD Research.
Hello everybody, I'm Danielle, Dozier, the chief meteorologist at News 19 here in Huntsville.
Alright, so thank you all for your brief introductions. Now that we kind of let you just on the surface level, it's time to get started with the questions. So, this is to all of you. Can you give a brief overview of your role and what you do on a daily basis, what your day looks like, and how did you get started in this field and into what you're doing now?
So yeah, on a daily basis, I teach and I do research. I think a lot of people think that professors just teach or just do research. A lot of us do both. So I work with graduate students and undergraduate students that work with me on clouds and storms, trying to understand clouds and storms better using atmospheric models. So the new data that we're getting around. We have this beautiful new site sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy out at the McCain National Forest. We've been working a lot with this data to understand how clouds and storms are evolving and how clouds and storms affect us here in North Alabama. Teaching is something I teach our atmospheric dynamics class for third year, mostly third and fourth year students in our equipment. I don't get here. I've always loved the weather. I remember in first grade I was in my first grade classroom pointing at the weather maps where the hurricanes were going through. I was watching the Weather Channel, watching Jim Cantori, who is still on TV today, which is I guess I'm not that old yet, but. And I was in West Virginia, so I was nowhere near the coast. I've always loved the weather, and I always loved working with computers and technology, and so finding a career path that allowed me to do both those things was really important to me. And I get to teach and mentor and do research analysis. It's great. It's really a dream job.
It's hard to follow up. Let's see, what do I do every day? So I get in first thing, I spend a couple hours forecasting. After that, I start to build graphics. So the first half of my day is very scientific, right? I'm analytical, I'm looking at numbers. How can I take this high-level scientific data and then get it to you in an easy, digestible, and very efficient way? And then the second half of my day is actually being on camera. So that's more the creative part, and we're laughing and we're talking and we're making it a little more personal. After we get off air, which I'm on camera for 3.5 to 4.5 hours a day, depending on the day. After that, there's other opportunities. So I have an Answers It, which is like a science explainer segment that I do, and we talk about condensation and why we're warmer when we have clouds at night and everything under the sun. I also have Versus Girls Club, which is like one of my newest pet projects that celebrates women in STEM. So I find local women in our area, I interview them, talk to them about their field and exactly how they got to where they are today, very similar to what we're doing now, and then publish that on the news for the next generation, just to kind of see what's available to them and what they like to be one day. And then appearances, I get to go to the trash canvas games and say, oh my gosh, it's 95 and sunny, but you should still come out today. And the potato garden and all kinds of other things, which for me is kind of when it comes to life, is getting to meet all of you. Everyone says, you must be so nervous, we're in a camera. But you're not, because the camera has no emotions, it's not there. But when I get to see you, that's when it comes to life, you know, and I finally get to put names and faces to the job that we do every day. How did I get started? I was more the academic track. I kind of came in backdoor into weather. So I was very, very physics heavy. I wanted to be an eye doctor. Chemistry had other ideas for me. So instead I took the physics track and fell in love with that. At the time, my brother was at Mississippi State, which is where I ended up going. And he said, you know, I have some friends that are in the meteorology department, and I think they do a lot of physics. And I thought, okay, well, let me get connected with them. And so we talked, and they said, oh my gosh, you're going to love it. And then there's this thing called thermodynamics, which is like math and physics, and you're just going to have a ball, which was true. And after kind of choosing the academics of it, then the love of weather came just after that. I do a lot of shadows, internships, things like that, and I would heavily recommend that regardless of what field you're going to. Kind of see what's available, make sure it's something that you're interested in, and then chase after it.
All right, so hi everyone. My day-to-day can kind of vary, as you can expect, depending on the weather. So we do what you'd expect, 7-day forecast, but if there's, say, a bunch of weather going on or a severe weather event going on, we'll be the ones putting out those watches and warnings. And that can get really, really busy in the operations floor, because it's not just being on radar sending those out. It's answering phone calls, it's social media, making graphics, and just a bunch of different things in just that aspect. But there's other things we do, like events like this, public outreach, working with students. We're very fortunate to be co-located with the university here. And one of the really exciting things that we do is we work with the department here, and we have basically an NWS 101 type class. And that's been really fun to meet students. They basically get to learn how to do weather breakdowns and learn how to meet an NWS forecaster if that's the career they should choose. So that's something really exciting. And how I got started, so I'm from Arizona. There's really not too much in the way of weather there until it gets monsoon season, right? So I would see lightning galore when it was monsoon season, or the microburst, and it was just really interesting weather going on. And when I was young, I really wanted a career in which I can help people, but I'm not exactly a doctor type person, if that makes sense. I kind of wanted to be as blood. So I went to a kind of career fair at the Arizona State University. I was for grad, and they had a bunch of careers for meteorologists, and that's where I kind of learned about weather service, and it's been my career goal ever since that time, and I've been fortunate to be in it for that 8 years now.
So I don't think this is going to sound as exciting as everyone else is, but a lot of what I do is more on the managerial role. So I help my colleagues develop their tasks for the upcoming 2 weeks, and we do 2-week sprints. A lot of what we do is coding in Python and developing software as a service for different end users. Our biggest contract right now is in the DoD, so a lot of work that we're doing is going towards developing weather effects for missiles and aviation. And then a lot of what we do is at our meetings, we don't forecast unless there is an impactful weather event going to affect one of our offices. So we have an office here in Huntsville, Dayton, Ohio, Eglin Air Force Base, a couple of other places. So we do forecast for them just to make sure, like, hey, we're watching, we got your back. But that's a lot of what we do. We do a lot of team building, and we're a very social team. Josh is in the back here supporting. So a lot of what we do is working together as a team to help develop those products and doing the next steps. Occasionally, during the proposal season, so I'm just about proposal season, but we write proposals to different groups. We just wrote one with NASA a couple of years ago, and so that's a big time chunk during the early spring time frame. How I got here, I actually interned with the state of Alabama for atmospheric chemistry, and I did not want to do that. I also realized I don't like forecasting, and I don't want to do TV. So I was finishing up with my bachelor's, and I'm like, what can I do? so I went on to get my master's at UAH. And actually, in an event kind of similar to this, I realized there's people out there in the private sector who are, not forecasting. They have 8-to-5 jobs. And this was an option for me. And just networking got me to the position I'm in now. And I've been at CMD for 5 years. I love it. It's great work for me. I get to work with software engineers, aerospace engineers, physicists, biologists. I get to use my atmospheric science with all these different disciplines. So network is very important. That means I sounded.
All right, so the first question was a little bit about what we do every day. So I usually get in early afternoon and I look at the forecast, I make the graphics, I release things on TV, and I'm a part of the editorial meeting. As a chief meteorologist, I have to be in there to give the daily weather briefing and update everybody on where we think weather should go into show, and make sure we know if it's an important weather day, whether we're going to deal or not with weather. So that's part of it as well. And I'm also somebody who's going to make the radio forecast as well, and we update our blog and our weather forecast discussion every day, so that's also a part of it. And that's kind of the day-to-day, and then we're on from 4 to 5, 5 to 5:30, 6 to 7, 9 to 10. That's my role Monday through Fridays, evenings. And the shows that we do, so it's what I do on a daily basis. And also just like Grace, we do a lot of extracurricular things outside of just what we do on a day-to-day, which for me, we do a segment called Remarkable Women that I was a part of as well, just highlighting women's roles in the community. Weather Wednesdays, I get to be out in the summer and do weather on location and just talk to some amazing people out there about what they do in their community and bring community events to life. And soccer games, trash canvas games, those kinds of things. Yeah, we make appearances and do weather at as well. So that's kind of what goes into it. And community events like these. We love doing these. We love going out to schools and talking to the kids about weather and bringing science to them. And then tours, people will come to the studio as well. So that's also a part of it if you do get to broadcast meteorology. And then how I got into it, I'm old, so like I watched Twister back in the mid-90s, and that's how I really got into weather. Getting my age away, I was a kid when Twister came out, but yeah, I really love that movie, and it's all Helen Hunt, and I said I really want to storm chase one day, so weather became a passion of mine growing up in Virginia Beach, and then I got a degree from UNC Asheville first, and then I did a broadcast internship while I was at my college. And was very fortunate enough to get a job in TV. I started in Abilene, Texas, was there for 4 years, moved to Oklahoma City, was a storm chaser for my TV station in Oklahoma City for 3 years, as well as a broadcast meteorologist there. And then from there, I was at Indianapolis for 3, Pittsburgh for 3, and Huntsville for almost 4 years. So I've been in the business for about 18, yeah.
Thank you, great answers. This question is for you, Grace. What maybe behind the scenes aspects kind of contribute to that day-to-day, or maybe something that you wouldn't think about when you think about a broadcast meteorologist?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I get in every day and I think about how I'm going to tell you about what's happening, I give 3 weather stories for you. Because I'm a morning mat, the first one is usually always current conditions, temperature, skies, and rain. Just because I feel like you need to know that. That's why you're watching me. When I used to work some of the evening shifts, the first story was our next weather maker. What's the next thing that's going to impact you and when? There's a ton of research, and a lot of it just from conversations with you all. You feel so much better when you know about something 5 days in advance, even if it's not a concrete. I can give you 2 different outcomes and say, could be A, could be B, but I'm keeping my eyes on it. And you prefer that to me just saying, okay, tomorrow I know for sure what's going to happen. Everybody pay attention. You like that longer lead time. So that's kind of where the 3 weather stories come in. I'll give you your out-the-door forecast first thing, your next weather maker, and then I'm just kind of tasting the end of the week because that something that we're seeing for a station that's beginning Friday night football? Is it something I'm seeing for that could impact that? Is it your weekend forecast? Is it something of that nature? So you kind of do all the science. You kind of, I guess, to like geek out a little bit and look at all the different models and all the different satellites we have, and then I put myself in your shoes. That was something that was really important to learn when just getting into this role. You know, when we're in meteorology school, everybody's just like us. So you walk around talking about vorticity and what the dew point depression is and things like that. And these are not words or phrases that anybody at home really cares about or wants to know. So kind of changing from being a scientist to putting myself in your shoes, that's a little bit of the behind the scenes before you get ready to go.
What? I do this, like, we just press that. See that, guys?
Okay. Dr. Freeman, this question's for you. So we know that you're both a lecturer and do your own research. What is it like balancing your time between those two things? And what kind of aspects do you like about both of them?
Yeah, so really teaching and doing research are two sides of the same coin. And I think a lot of people are surprised when I tell them that. But when we do teaching, we want to keep it as up to date with the current science as possible. And research allows us to push the current science forward. As we push the current science forward, we can feed that back into the teaching. And honestly, some of the best ideas I've gotten from research have come from conversations I've had in class. So in terms of how those work together, how I balance my time, well, I do them kind of both simultaneously, at least to the best of my abilities. Yes, it's always a balance. Yes, you have to make sure that the next class lecture is ready, especially I'm relatively new in this job. If you haven't taught the class before, if you're a current undergraduate and you're taking a new class or professor, your professor will be more stressed that semester than they otherwise would be because they're building the airplane as it's in the air. So, sorry. Yeah, it's an interesting balance to strike. Fortunately, we're blessed with having people around us to help us for teaching. Many of us have teaching assistants for research. We have work with graduate students and undergraduate students who do a lot of the research work. We're kind of there as I act more as a supervisor and mentor than I am doing a lot of my own research. And that's one of the wonderful things about being at a research university. Is, all these brilliant students come through with their own ideas, and you got to be there and support them. Thanks to all probably okay.
How do you manage to both? That's what answer.
I sleep less than I should, and I work more.
That's a good answer.
This question for you, Christina. What are some of the key responsibilities of a national weather service forecaster, and what kind of tools or what ways do they focus on to help keep communities safe during severe weather events?
Did it just start here? Okay. All right. So it's kind of a two-sided coin to kind of echo what he just said. Because we do a lot of work with who we call core partners. And an example of core partner would be emergency management, school superintendents, or local officials to give them the weather so that they can make as informed and a safety decision as possible. For instance, if there's severe weather coming, they need to know that information, timing, what exactly the impact the weather is that we're expecting, that sort of thing. And then the other side of it is letting you all know and trying to help educate how to best keep you guys safe before the storms happen. So some ways we do that are, like I mentioned before, public outreach events, where you talk about tornado safety, flood safety, winter weather safety, that sort of thing. Going into doing school talks for kids. The UAH class that I mentioned before, to try to help train the next generation of meteorologists to be able to effectively communicate that weather information so you all can keep safe. We can just with this.
I am good.
Okay, we're gonna go without it. It's okay. I don't think you all can hear me. At least do something one. Tell me if you need me to repeat anything, and I think we'll be okay. So thank you so much for your answer.
Danielle, this next question's going to be for you. As chief meteorologist at Newsnight team, I'm sure there's more leadership skills and roles required for that. Can you tell us how your role might differ from other broadcast meteorologists?
Sure. Lots of meetings. More meetings. Meeting after meeting after meeting. I mean, really, that's what it is. I mean, it's for me, particularly on my station, I do schedules as well for the team. So we have 5 of us on our team, and I do the schedules. I know that other places I work, the chief doesn't do the schedules, so it just really depends on what station you work at, if you're having to do schedules or not. But I do scheduling, and then, I'm a part of meetings with my boss, who's the news director, and we have a lot of meetings about planning ahead for severe weather season or winter weather preparedness. What are we going to do? Things that we're going to talk about on TV. What do we think the public really needs to know about certain weather events? You're part of the editorial meetings as well, so you're going to go in the afternoon and talk about whether is going to lead and the next big weather event that's coming in. You're a big part of that, and then you're also a part of the research that goes on within the TV station, the company itself. So those are some of the things probably that differ from just that, meteorologist.
I have these questions for you. How does working in the private sector differ from public sector for meteorology? What are some of the ways that that's different?
So we're very similar to our public sector counterparts. We work very closely with broadcast groups, the National Weather Service and academics. But I think one of the biggest areas that we differ from these groups is we're also doing active commercialization of our products. So a big portion of what we do, and I say big, I'm not more on the business side, but we do have groups that help us, and the CFD that help us in the business side. But a lot of what we do is commercialization for these products. So we're actively going out and finding customers, finding problems to solve. A lot of what we do is to get those products that we develop, which is including research, but getting them out there to those end users and working with those end users as we're developing those products. So kind of doing a back and forth with them to see, okay, is this working for you? What do we need to change? And then we're also similar to the academics, having a research component where we're developing things. Right now, we're developing particle characterization using radar, which has been done, but for the DoD, it's not really out there. So we're going back and doing a lot of research, looking at papers and things along those lines for this. But also, having to have customer meetings and getting their feedback, and then, okay, we're also getting directive from higher than them, and we need to pivot now. But a lot of it is very similar to what our public sector counterparts are doing, and we all rely on each other.
So this next question is for whichever you want to answer. You can all answer it, or Lou can answer it, but we want to know, what are some common misconceptions that people have about either specifically your job or just meteorology and meteorologists in general that you want the public to know about?
Let's take this. So one of the things that's been really exciting to me, so obviously I'm a forecasting, and you kind of touched on this in your intro. Not everybody is. There's all different types of meteorologists, meteorologists, or seeds of that nature. One of the things that's becoming really popular that I've seen, particularly in Huntsville with the science and engineering hub that it is not even so much the meteorological component, but the technology component. And we're starting to look at ways we can use typical weather technology to solve other problems. So there's a lot of people looking at radars to do that. Radars are really, really powerful. So you have what's called dual pole. Okay. You have dual pole. So that's every radar sends out horizontal and vertical pulse at the same time, and it kind of squiggle. that's worse than that stuff. And they kind of squiggle. And based on what they see, they send back a return pulse, kind of almost like a beluga whale, you know, and that's how they then populate the radars based on how strong that return stroke is. Well, there's a lot of new technology that says that that radar pulse is actually really strong and we can use it for other things. And I don't think I'm clear to tell you what things, but it's pretty cool. So yes, it is. You would like it if you knew about it. And that's something that I did not realize coming into this. I thought, you know, you're a forecasting meteorologist, you're either weather service, airlines, or you're on TV. And that's still very much true. And I think those things will always hold true. But it's been so interesting to see the technological components kind of advance. But we're the only people group that's able to use that technology. So you see these people on the Arsenal, these people in Research Park, all across the area, hiring teams of meteorologists just for the expertise. And because meteorology school is like this close to impossible, it's very good to know that, you know, that all the things we're learning, we're going to use and we're going to continue to use. And even as our field is adapting and changing, there's always a place for us because everything we use can be transferred and can be beneficial to other fields.
I'll take it. Outside, mission.
I think a misconception that just based on the questions I get asked from people on a daily basis is, do you just come in at 3:45 and go on TV 15 minutes later at 4 o'clock? I mean, really, that's the question I get asked a lot, and the answer is no. We actually do have to get in a couple of hours before the newscast starts and go through some of the things that I talked about earlier, which is, you know, making your forecast, making your graphics, doing radio, doing website, updating producers and news directors about the weather. So there's a lot that goes into it before you actually get to television. You know, yeah, you're not coming in about 15 minutes. Also, I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, which I think another misconception about being in TV is that maybe when you first start, you're going to make a ton of money, but I'm telling you, I lived on ramen noodles for a long time. So you have a lot of great potential, so don't get me wrong. Don't let that deter you, but just like any career, starting out, you might not make as much as you would like to make. And things have evolved in the last, 20 years that I've been doing this, but yeah, starting out at least, you, again, just have your expectations and know that you can go far in the TV business, but you might not be where you want to be right when you first get out of college. So that might be another misconception.
Excuse me, sorry. I have another one that probably a lot of you do now, but some people don't, that weather is very math and physics heavy. Honestly, when I started looking into it, when I was going into college, I had no idea. But I looked up physics degree and it was like the third one down. So, but even so, yes, math and physics are hard. Like there's no getting around that. But, you know, you just keep at it. Keep, you know, networking with your friends. Just, you know, do first notes to see, try to start again. You heard that? So, because it wasn't easy for me, but I tried to really do my best by doing study groups, you know, just anything I could do to, I guess, get over that. Because, I mean, you use math and physics in our field, but it's not like we're deriving equations every day. You know what I mean? So, don't let that make us cloud, and just keep working and doing your best. Yeah, that's a good one.
This question's for all of you. What education or qualification requirements do you have to go into your field of meteorology?
I can just shout. I'm a professor. I'm used to talking in a classroom. I have a PhD in meteorology. Most faculty do, not all. Ms. Bledsoe is wandering around here helping out. She's one of our lecturers. She has a master's degree. But if you're going to be in higher education, you have to have at least the same level of degree as you're teaching for. So if I want to train doctoral students, you need a PhD. So, a lot of grad school.
I do not have a PhD. I have a bachelor's. I do go to Mississippi State, and they kind of do an accelerated bachelor's and master's program type deal. So I have that. So we call it professional, but it's like the research operational side. I was a professional meteorology major with an emphasis in broadcast.
And then I minored in communication. It was like one other extra class. So it's like, let's just do it. Who needs to sleep the extra hour anyway? A lot of meteorologists on TV do have their masters. It's very dependent kind of on what you want to do. Do you want to research? Do you want to do that? There's really mixed opinions. You don't need to have your masters. I think it's important to make sure you're eligible to get your AMS CBM seal. To do that, you have to take Cal-based Physics 2 and Thermodynamics 2. So I think that's the important part. A master's is definitely beneficial, but it's not necessary to be on TV.
So for the weather service, once we have entry-level jobs sent out, you'll see it on USA Jobs. So if you just look at meteorologist, you'll be able to see exactly what they're asking for. But essentially, a degree in meteorology, a bachelor's, and it's honestly, it's a good idea to get some sort of experience to go along with it. Now, what do I mean by that? It could be a volunteership at your local NWS office. I'll put a plug in for the students here. We're going to have a spring opening here in a few weeks, so be on the lookout for that. Or even just job shadows. Like, I'm more than happy to call us up and be like, I'm really interested. Would I be able to sit with you and see what you do on a daily basis? We're more than happy to do that. But another thing too, I would recommend some sort of computer programming or GIS, because those, like you're talking about, technology is becoming at the forefront. So anything you can do to kind of set yourself apart, in addition to volunteering for community service or any sort of thing to kind of set yourself apart, internships anywhere, especially meteorology related, like you had said earlier. So just anything you can do to set yourself apart.
So I have a bachelor's and master's in atmospheric science. Within the entire CFD company, there's about 280 employees, and I think our latest statistic is 70% of our employees have advanced degrees, a master's or higher. But we don't require a master's. Actually, we have someone on our team who just has a bachelor's. She is going to get a master's in data science. But it's not required. And but being able to show that you can do research and that you can code and that you can communicate the science, that's also very important in our field. You can be like the best scientist or engineer, but if you can't communicate the science, then you're not to do well. But you don't need a PhD to go into the private sector. You don't need a master's, but just showing that you have experience and you can do research and other things is very important.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty much what Grace said on TV. So, yeah, I mean, I think when you're the biggest thing is, when you go through to get your degree and you study hard, and it's super important. I think she also touched on this too, is that you have to kind of leave the presentation, like, when you get up there and you do your student briefings and you have a projector behind you and you're being very specific about scientific details, you kind of almost have to leave a little bit of that behind when you go into broadcast, because you really have to simplify what you're saying to the viewer. So just something to think about as well. That was something that I remember when I got into TV, I had to really try hard to do, because, like she said, you're learning about all kinds of things in thermodynamics and synoptic and all of that, and you cannot say a lot of those terms on TV because people do not understand those. So yeah, but as far as the degrees go, it's what Grace said.
How sweet.
So this question is for just Dr. Freeman. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're researching right now and something that might be interesting or impactful to our audience?
Yeah, so I study clouds and storms. So I'm trying to understand, okay, if we have this environment, what kind of cloud or storm are we going to get? We understand some of the basics there, right? But how many times have we gotten to a school, got to university, and school's closed at 1 p.m. because there's some big squall line coming through and it might produce tornado? My interest is in reducing the amount of times we have to do that, reducing that false alarm rate, improving our ability to predict those ahead of time. So stuff we're working on right now, a lot of stuff around this new exciting Department of Energy facility out in the Bankhead National Forest. lots of really, really cool data. I think the biggest thing for me that's surprising is, as Grace was saying earlier, the technology in our field is advancing at a very, very rapid pace. Something that's kind of new and developing and simmering is the ability of using machine learning and artificial intelligence to predict the weather in addition to computer models, in place of computer models. Something that we're getting really good at doing that for like large, big scale. Where are the fronts going to be? Where is the low pressure going to be? Where's the high pressure going to be? We're getting pretty good at that. Where we're not doing so well is being able to apply that to, okay, where is the storm going to be? We still are relying on a lot of, we'll say traditional as in like, something that we've been using for the past 20 or 30 years, traditional weather models to be doing that kind of on the smaller scale. So hopefully with a lot of this new data and with the kind of complex storms we get around here in North Alabama, we'll be able to make strides on that and understand, okay, how do we reduce those false alarm rates and get better predictions with machine learning, artificial intelligence, or with just improving our understanding of the weather?
Questions for anybody who wishes to answer. How do you stay up to date with newest advancements in meteorology, newest technologies? And are there any resources you recommend for many people in the audience to be able to keep up with that as well?
So I'll project. We just got back from the AMS conference in January. That's a really good place to keep up, but if you're not able to go, LinkedIn is a good place. A lot of people will post little blurbs about their research, and then they'll link to their articles and discussions that are going on. Keeping in touch with your classmates and colleagues to see what they're doing is a really good way. Yeah, I think those are some of the top ones. Yep.
If you're interested and you don't have a weather background and aren't really interested in getting a weather math heavy background, but you're interested in learning what's kind of new, the American Meteorological Society, which is our professional society, one of our professional societies, has resources available just for you to learn. They post a lot of stuff on their blog. They have a magazine that comes out. They have 2 magazines, actually. They have Weather-Wise, which is a little bit more pictures of weather and that kind of thing. And they have the Bulletin of the American Meteorological Society, which is a little bit more dense, but still readable, I think, even if you're a non-expert. And they also post like blog posts and stuff on their blogs. Yeah, I think that was what I was trying to say. I had something else, but I forgot it.
I think weather.gov has something called Jetstream that's along the same lines too. That's free, open to everybody.
And if you Google UCAR Comet, C-O-M-E-T, it has just phenomenal little mini courses on whatever weather topic you're interested in. They've got like hundreds of courses on, all free, hundreds of courses on there where you can click through, and it's the same training modules that we use, we look at, and they do a really good job of some of them will have some math in it, but it's designed and written for, so you don't have an undergrad degree in meteorology. I want to learn about why does fog form. You can read through the Comet module. They have little quizzes even if you want to like get a little certificate. And you can read through the Comet module and understand a little bit more about it. That's free.